Okay, either you're in the military or you are married into the family of someone who's in the military and you're moving to San Diego. You need to know, what should I know when moving to San Diego? Well, I'm a Marine myself. I've made the move out here, and in this video, I'm going to cover some top things you need to know when moving to San Diego, being a member of the military or being a spouse of a member in the military. And say to the end, I'm going to give you the number one thing you need to know when PCSing to San Diego. Let's go. My name is coming from eXp Realty here in San Diego, and on this channel I talk about moving to and living in San Diego, California, and I drop videos every Tuesday and Thursday helping you make the best decision when moving to San Diego, or in this case PCSing to San Diego. But while I love doing this, I am also a licensed real estate agent here in California, and I love helping you with the real estate decisions when moving to San Diego. This number popping below is how you can get a hold of me. Call, text, email, it doesn't matter. I get calls all the time, days, nights, weekends, and I love it. So if that's you, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me that email, and I'm here to help you in making that move. So getting into it, little backstory when it comes to moving to San Diego. I am a Marine myself. I served from 2013 all the way to 2018, and I spent my main station most of those years, well, at least for 4 of those years, was here in San Diego. I deployed twice over to the Pacific scene, South Korea, Okinawa, Guam, a little bit running through Hawaii, things like that. So I get it. I get moving in the military is tough. It's super crazy. When I initially came here in San Diego in 2014, I actually was a single Marine. So it was really easy. Got thrown in the barracks and moved on. But since then, I now have 2 kids, a third on the way. I met my wife in 2015, end of 2015. And I think one crazy thing is it wasn't until I started having a family that I really started to appreciate what San Diego had to offer. But that being said, I've also learned a lot when it comes to having a family and finding places to live in San Diego, helping other military members make their move out here, as well as relocate around the county to find the best place that fits them, depending which base you're going to, whether Pendleton, Miramar, Coronado, 32nd Street. It doesn't matter. Like, it's helping you make the best decision when moving out here. Because I think when they first make the move out to San Diego, the first thing they hear about is they're like, oh my gosh, it's super expensive and I'm just going to live on base. Well, I will tell you, in this last month, base housing has hit 97% capacity. So does that mean you're probably going to be able to find a place to stay? Potentially. But keep in mind, obviously BH is going to be higher in San Diego. And while it is tougher being like an E3 through E6 when it comes to getting a home in San Diego, mainly the E5s, it's still doable. It just depends on your situation as a family. And while San Diego and California, everyone wants to knock it so much. I know I did before I moved here, because I grew up in the country of New York, and I always made fun of California on so many levels. But really, it is a solid real estate market. And out of all the cities in California, it is one of the few that have actually maintained its population for the most part. It's barely lost any population over the last couple of years, maybe 0.3%. That's so nominal, it doesn't even count in my mind. But you look at like LA and San Francisco, and it loses value immensely. Or population, I mean. And that's one thing I love to tell military members, is one of the greatest things about being in the military is having that VA loan. And like, I've met so many more servicemen and women and families who buy homes every place they're stationed, and then they move on to the next, and they buy another home, they go on to the next, rent it out. And it's amazing to see after people run a full career, or even if it's just 4 years, they get out and now they have this home generating them income because they paid it down during their 2-3 years that they were in the station. And it's awesome. And San Diego's do not get thrown away by the high prices, especially with rates being nowadays. It's still a great place to find good transactions. I mean, so here's a good example. And this is obviously tailored to those who can't get base housing, right? Because that base housing being, especially in Camp Pendleton, being so high right now with capacity, people are being forced to go out in town, and rents are not cheap. For a single family home in North County, let's say you're near Camp Pendleton, they're gonna be spending at least $3,000 for a home every month, at least, and it could be up to $4,000 depending on the size you need. I met military members that have 5 kids, and they need a bigger home. It's crazy, absolutely nuts. And it's something you need to weigh in when it comes to making the move out here. And also at the same time, you're not building wealth, because when in the military, it's so easy to be caught up in that day-to-day life, whether, especially if you're a spouse, taking care of the family, holding that house down. It's nuts. I give my wife so much credit, because even her first pregnancy, I wasn't even here for most of it. Luckily, I came back to the U.S. just in, about a month before my first son was born. So thankfully, I was able to make it in time. But it's also one of those things. And, even during the first year of my oldest life, I was on detachments to Yuma and all this crazy stuff. So I wasn't home. So I give you credit. Now, obviously, for those of you that are looking to possibly get a piece at the San Diego market, that it's making the right decisions, right? So I'll give you a good story of someone I helped recently this year in 2022, and they're engaged. So they had a higher budget because it was a Marine captain working at the depot here in San Diego, and they made the decision to where they decided to go north towards Temecula. Now, Temecula is going to be in southern Riverside County, but it is a very popular spot for a lot of military members to go because relative to the price, they can get a home compared to like a condo down in San Diego. So that drive stinks, but it's really, if you time it right, it's really just the distance you have to deal with. So something and I love Temecula. I think it's a beautiful area, wine country, great schools, great community. Like it's a great place for military families to be if they're willing to make that drive. Or if you're going to Pendleton, it's not that much bad. Jesus, is that even a saying? Marine education coming at you right here. But Temecula is a great place to live. But we ended up getting a home there in Marietta, which Temecula and Marietta border each other. They're pretty much the same section there in southern Riverside County. And we were able to, for military members in San Diego, a lot of agents love to get on here, love to tell you about moving out here, but they've never been in the military. They don't get the stress and how most of military members, the only thing you got is your ranks pay and your BAH. That's your budget. A lot of us don't have, crazy savings in the military. Some do, but a lot of us are starting out. We got families. It's hard, especially with moving costs and stress and all that stuff. So it's, we were able to get them an off-market home where they actually got it for $5,000 under asking price. And those things still exist here in San Diego. While I will tell you, it's a lot going into it. It's still possible to get into those homes. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but that's a conversation I've had a lot with my military men and women who have been moving out here this year. That's one of their biggest concerns. I promise you, it's still possible. It's just making sure you find someone who fits right. And if you're concerned about moving out here and buying a home, obviously reach out to me and we can have that conversation. I'm just happy to talk to anyone in the military who's looking to move out here because it's just, it's a tough decision. You're already going through so much anyways. Now, the next is timeline. So obviously in the military, obviously if you're in the military, you already know, when you get orders, you're going through a whole checkout process just to be able to leave the freaking base and station that you're at. And then you got to hope that everything lines up on the other end. You have to make sure if you have family that you have everything lined up on the other end. It's nuts. There's so much going into it and it's chaos, right? So it's making sure you have a good timeline. Now, obviously being families, I think a lot of them are family oriented, but even if you don't have family, it's, regardless, either way, it's making sure what needs to happen on the other end. And if you're a single military member, especially with kids, I feel for you. That's why it's always important to make sure you have professionals that are helping you on the receiving end so you can have support where it can be, because we all know any support's necessary. You don't have to do everything on your own. But it's making sure what schools are your kids going to go to? Where do you want to live? Where can you live because of your budget? What do you want to do when you get here? What are some non-negotiables, driving time and things like that? I will tell you in the military, a lot of times, and I did this as well, is you're willing to let your family live in a better location and you yourself have to make that drive. I know I did that. I used to travel on the 15 while stationed MCS Miramar, and it's one of those situations where I think as military members, we're willing to take that hit and make that terrible drive in order for our family to have a better life, which is why I respect military members so much, and especially spouses as well, because they make the same decisions a lot of times for family. So it's crazy, mad respect. But it's making sure you have that timeline, right? Because even in the current market, so with that recent military client I had, it took about a month and a half to get into escrow on a home, which means we still had 30 days after that. So it took 60 days to get closed on a home for them to move into. So you have to make sure, especially if you're a spouse watching this, I know you're probably doing everything. So it's, you have to make sure you understand that from the day they're set to leave, it's going to take 60 days to get into a home when you're buying a condo, townhome, regular home. It doesn't matter. That's searching and stuff like that. And you have to make sure you give that freedom to make sure you have enough time to get something and move here. Obviously, also in the military, moving on to the next thing, is you're probably not going to be able to physically come out to San Diego and do the home. It's just, we don't, in the military, we don't get that luxury. Everything happens so quick. So making sure you have someone, I have helped people virtually look at homes every single day. every single day, because I understand that there's a difference between, like, if you can't be somewhere in person, like, there is no conversation about, oh, this kitchen's really nice, this is the paint color. It's, we walk into a home, you're on Zoom on my phone or FaceTime, it doesn't matter, like any kind of service like that. And I'm going to tell you everything that I find wrong with the home. Like, oh, look at this door. This door is like falling off the hinges. Hey, look at this. This is terrible. I'm going to give you everything that's terrible that I see when walking into a home and looking at homes, because you need to know the worst case scenario. So that way, if you still decide that home is perfect, then it's good to go. Also, a lot of times when we get into escrow, we could always do a 3D tour of the home as well that we could send to you, so you could do your own searching on top of the inspection period and things like that. And that's a service I would gladly help cover, but it's one of those things where you have to make sure that you're working with someone who is able to give you like the worst case scenario on that home, but has connections to make sure that they're getting all the inspections done and all that crap, so you can get all the information. Because when you can't see something physically, it's a whole different ball game, and you have to make sure that you understand and know everything that's wrong with the home and what you could potentially not like. Because while we're just happy to be able to get into a home as military members, I feel, when coming to San Diego, it's even more important to make sure that home is everything that you enjoyed. So, and a lot of times it could be me driving around the neighborhood taking a video so you can see what the neighborhood looks like, sending you, sites where the school information is and everything. Because when you can't go somewhere physically, you need all the information possible when making that move. And that goes into that 60-day timeline. Like, it all just gets thrown at you, and it's a lot, but making sure you have a team behind you to help you is so, so important. And heck, even when I was stationed here looking for homes, like, it's just, my wife did so much of the searching and stuff like that. Because I mean, and when you're in the military, you're working like 12, 14 hours a day. So, like, do you really have time? No. And then all of a sudden you get when you do have weekends to go look at homes, guess what? You're probably on duty. I know I got thrown into duty all the time, especially as a sergeant when I was, towards the end of my enlistment period. It's just like, you don't have time. So it's making sure everything gets juggled and tied up and things like that. Also, if you are coming from a different duty station, if you own a home and you decide to sell it when you're moving here, that's another added step that needs to be taken care of, which is why I pride myself in making sure, like, if it's a military base, I promise you I have a partner who is there to help you sell that home and knows how to work with me when you make the move here, so we can make sure we work and get everything lined up. Because it's so complicated, there's so much that goes into it, and making sure that you get all those things lined up. That's a home thing, that's all the stress that goes into that. Now, what do you expect when it comes to San Diego? Well, when you finally get here, wherever that's living, and you're in a home or on base, it doesn't matter. Even if you have kids, like, explore the area. Like, even if, like, especially if you're a spouse or even if you're a military member, when you have off time or you have the ability to take time, travel everywhere. Like, California is expensive, San Diego is expensive, but there's still plenty of free and fun things to do. There's a lot of hikes around San Diego, a lot of nature trails, especially in North County, that you can take your kids to, even along the coast near, closer to 32nd Street. If you're my Navy members, getting stationed closer to Coronado and things like that. There's races, there's the county fair has just started as well in San Diego, and that's in Del Mar. That's a fun event. Military get slightly discounted tickets. You look on their website, you can get a slightly discounted military ticket. Obviously, the ticketing office on base sometimes will even have further discounted tickets and things like that. So there's so much to do. Also, if you have a 96 or you have time, don't forget, like, you can always drive like the hour and a half to Disneyland up in LA. Also you have SeaWorld in San Diego, you have Legoland here in San Diego. Like, there's so much to do. And one of the things I do kick myself for when I first came here is I didn't really appreciate what San Diego had to offer. All the things, the harbor, fishing on the pier and Oceanside, like all these things that I'm like, man, like, I just wasted so much time not enjoying, like, just playing video games. Even if you're single, like, playing video games, wasting my time. Like, there's a lot going on in San Diego. Also, another thing is, if you're a spouse who's looking, even military members too, if you're looking to get side jobs and things like that, San Diego does have opportunity for a lot of, to be able to generate some extra income, especially if it's expensive. There's a lot of ways. They're like, cool thing about California is that there's probably work at home jobs are definitely more common. The offices on base always have, listings and stuff like that to help spouses when they're moving here. Don't forget, there's a lot of great colleges here as well. So if you're a spouse looking to get into school, that is another option that you could address when making the move here. But it's making sure that you have the support. Like, man, you have to, when you get here, you know where you're going to. Like, there's so many Facebook groups. Like, I run a Facebook group myself for anyone who's looking to move to San Diego. That it's just a group of like past clients and friends and family, and we're all there, so you can ask a question inside that group. Man, if I could talk today, and ask and make sure you get anything answered before making that move out here. Or especially, another thing as well is if everyone in the home is working, all the adults are working, childcare, make sure you line that up. Thankfully I didn't have to go through it because we had my son at the end of my enlistment, but I have seen many military members struggle with getting childcare, because when it comes to on-base daycare and things like that, there is always a wait list. Always a wait list when it comes to getting your child into those daycares and things like that. So if they're not school age, like, you got to make sure you start looking for a plan and what you can do. A lot of times, like, your FRO for your unit will, your family readiness officer will have, solutions. So ones that, families, what are they using? What are they doing? Are there other family members? Are there groups helping watch each other's kids and things like that? Like, they make sure you get that dialed in, because obviously San Diego being expensive and complicated, like, you have to make sure you have that plan in place for your kids if they're not school age, because it just makes things more complicated, especially as we know, if you're the military member and you're moving here, or even if you're a spouse married to the military member. As a military member, once you get here and you have to start checking in, all heck breaks loose. Like, you're going through the check-in process, you're learning your new unit, who's at the unit, you're trying to, if it's a different job and role, like you're out here for a B bill, like, all these things compile and add on and add on and add on, and you're just not gonna have time once you're here. So if you can do all your research and get things lined up before you come here, it's so important. And so you have to make sure you get that dialed in before you make the move out here. So I hope this gave you great insight. I just wanted to cover some ideas and things that I have found when I moved out here that I wish I did, and some things that you need to look at when making the move out here. So I see other videos from agents, or it doesn't really matter, who try and tell military members about moving out here. But like, I can tell you, like, I've done it. I've been here. I've had a family and had to get most of these things dialed in when I was stationed here and had a family. Like, I get the stress, and I want to let you know that if you are PCSing out here and you already know you're making the move, you want to have a conversation. Like, even if, like, it doesn't have to be about anything. Just if you want to have a conversation, get some tips, insights, or you do want to potentially buy a home when coming out here, this number popping up below is how you can get a hold of me. I'm here for you days, nights, weekends. It doesn't matter. Give me a ring. I'm here to have that conversation with you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.